This is a good old deck showcase video. The tag is called From Seed to Soul Decks. Kate at Moonflower Moments selected all these prompts based on vital parts of the garden to her. Thought these prompts were clever, and just wanted to talk about decks that have been mainstays in my collection for a while. First up, Arbor, a deck that acts as a portal into a new world. For me, that is the Fountain Tarot, and honorable mention to the Magic Pantry Tarot, which I'm borrowing from my friend right now in a deck swap, but more on this in a bit. What is so strikingly different about the Fountain Tarot to me is that the cards are so abstract that it feels like dream sequences almost. So rather than feeling like a tangible set that I could recreate, it feels pretty abstract. Even though my actual dreams feel like real life sequences, there are walls and buildings and all that stuff. After I wake up, I can't really remember what the dreams looked like in particular, but I can always remember what they feel like. And so that's why the Fountain Tarot is like a dream sequence deck for me. I have thought about getting other decks that look more cartoonish or more out there, more unconventional, to think that maybe those could be like dream-like decks. But really, the simplicity, the straightforwardness, or abstractness, I mean, those are two very like different ideas, right? But it's a good mix of both of that. Like there's enough scenery here, there's enough things happening that I can see it. But the kind of fuzzy quality of it makes it feel dreamlike. It's like all of these cards and scenes are on the same broad plane of existence, as if I was walking on a blank space and then passing by different sceneries. These sceneries just kind of meld into each other or are separate in some way, but I can't really tell, and I don't really need to tell because this is just all part of like that same open abstract world for me. Now, honorable mention to the Magic Pantry Tarot. So I'm borrowing this deck from Joe of Pointed Logic Tarot. We're doing a deck swap right now where we are trying out decks from each other's collections. So she sent me some decks to look at and try out for myself, and I sent her some decks in return. I made a whole video about it if you want to see that as well. I'm actually also enjoying another deck that she lent me, so I'll talk about that later on in this same video. I love the colors of this deck, the art, the illustrations, the way that people are drawn and depicted. This is really, really cool. The artist here, or the creator and artist here, is Cedar McLeod, who also illustrated the Numinous Tarot. But anyway, I usually am not drawn to magical aesthetics. The occult aesthetic, it's just not really my thing. Goth, the emo aesthetic, the dark, macabre, those types of things, it's just not really my thing. I'm way more into colors. The world, the feeling that I get from these cards, these imagery, is a world of coziness, a world of sharing, a world of growth, a world of community too. And it's fascinating how the creator can pick different fruits and different foods and everything that can correlate with every single card. I've only read descriptions for a couple of these cards so far, but they do feel really, really ingenious. And Joe and I have talked briefly before about how she does kitchen witchery. It's not something that I'm really familiar with myself, but I do understand the idea of it. It is really cool to think about adding more things to your life or having more intentions and using food and herbs and all these different things as a way to set those kinds of intentions. What a really cool world this depicts. Next is Pathway, a deck that gives you direction or provides you with choice. Here I've got the Spread Machine or the Spread Crafters cards, the Base Edition and the Quest Edition. If you have seen these cards before, because I talked about them a billion times, well, sorry, not sorry. The timestamps are always in the description, so you can always skip ahead. So for those who are new to this deck is a set of prompts that you can use to basically create your own card spreads. You can also use these cards individually to reflect on whatever you'd like. So I can pick cards from any category. I can also pick cards from only one category. I can choose to draw cards randomly like this and lay them out that way. Or I can consciously go through and choose cards that I feel are most relevant to my situation. So let me design a quick reading right now. Okay, so I've got a bunch. Now I'm going to go through and pare these down to a few select relevant ones. So this is what I've got so far. I did not mean to choose only the ones that were all blue, but I guess only those made the cut today. So this is an example of the paths that I love taking and exploring through this deck. I think this deck is a perfect spread deck for me personally. Not only are there so many words and categories that are helpful to work with, but also having these definitions and extra clarifying questions on these cards helps jumpstart my intuition. Not just intuition, but like my ability to make connections. When I see these other words on the cards, I'm thinking about other words and ideas that are connected to each of these. So even if the word courage doesn't really make sense to me, seeing here active bravery that's needed right now. How can I conquer my fears? What makes me invincible? So maybe those are other things that are related to courage, but can lead me in a different direction if the word courage is making me stuck. I guess I'll just pull tarot cards right now just for the fun of it. I'm not going to do the full reading here. I was just using the Way of the Panda mini tarot the other day, and it was wonderful. I, of course, could just journal on any of these cards without pulling cards for them, but, you know, the fun of divination is always the pulling cards and pretending like we're really, really magical here. I guess not pretending, we really are, right? So maybe the prayer that I want to give out is a Page of Pentacles, Courage, King of Wands, Practice, King of Cups, and Guide is the Ace of Pentacles. Wow, this real mirroring going on here. The only thing that's missing is the swords. Bottom of the deck, oh my god, you know what? I had a feeling that would be there. I had a feeling. Oh, wow. Cool stuff. So I love using this deck to explore and to pick out cards on purpose like so. And I'll briefly talk about the Spread Machine Quest deck as well. So for the base deck, this can be used for any general reading, and the Quest deck is used for when I want to feel like I'm in a game kind of mode. I really like this deck for the analogies that it helps me think about. So similar thing with this one, I'll pull out cards that feel relevant, and then I'll narrow them down and then build out a little spread and pull cards for them that way. I really love these decks. I don't even really need spreads from other people when I have this kind of deck. I want to find other ways to use these on camera, whether it's just me doing my own readings on camera or me doing activities that other people can jump in on. I don't know how to use this and make it more interactive, but suffice to say, these are some of my actually favorite decks in my whole collection, ever and ever. Next is Fountain, a deck that created a ripple effect in your life. For me, that is the Fountain Tarot. Just kidding. It's actually the Gentle Tarot. I started a deck study for this last year in October. I had just gotten the deck and I knew I wanted some people to help like read alongside with, keep me accountable, and just have some discussion with. So I put out a call for it in the Sass Witches Discord server, and I unexpectedly got 3 whole people who showed up consistently every single week. I think I'm doing some kind of project with this, which is why the cards are sectioned out. So the Gentle Tarot deck study, we were doing that October till December. Actually, October till January. We extended it a little bit more because we were enjoying it so much. And the ripple effect that this created was that not only did I gain tarot, study buddies for that duration, I also gained more insight into the cards. I also learned more about different ways to look at the cards, different activities to do, because people came up with different activities every week. Afterward, we all wanted to keep in touch, so we have a separate tarot group chat going. The deck study that I started, not really having much of a plan, not really knowing what else to do, it blossomed into a group chat. So now we voice call once every month, although now it's getting a little bit more often as we're getting a bit closer. We're voice calling, we're texting, we're like sharing our tarot studies, tarot decks, whatever we're up to. So I have gotten, much closer to these friends in the past few months. One of them, Christine, even got me on the Finch self-care app, which has been really helpful. I've been depressed the past few weeks, so having a self-care app and having this group chat and having Christine to check in with has been really helpful. And Jo of Pointed Logic Tarot is in there as well. Always love hearing whatever she has to say, and she brings a really calm space as well, so calm and so grounding. Honestly, these friends feel like these sisters that I didn't have growing up. It feels like the teenage or college age club that I wish I was a part of growing up. I was a part of clubs, but not to the point that we felt like friends. I guess we kind of feel like the Babysitters Club now that I think about it. I've been reading those books for the first time earlier this year because I never read the Babysitters Club growing up. We had kind of mentioned it, and I had wanted to know what the hype is all about. And, the Babysitters Club is the kind of friend group, the friend/business group I would have liked growing up. And I guess now the tarot club is kind of my babysitter's club now, except we don't do business stuff. We're just here to chat and have fun. Started with a study group, now we're here. And actually, we're going to start studying the Embodied Ecosystems Tarot Oracle deck. So I'm really excited to soak in all of their knowledge and good vibes and learn more. Oh my gosh, learn more about the deck and about tarot and stretch my brain some more. Next is Garden Bench, a deck that begs for you to sit in contemplation. For me, that's the Reclaim Oracle. Now, I've seen questions on groups here and there about how do people use this deck. because this might not really be a deck that you can use for like daily card pulls. I think the beauty of this deck is not in random card pulls, but more in intentional card pulls. This deck is a lot of emotions that are illustrated in a visual or somatic kind of way. So I learned about the word somatic for the first time last year. I was looking for a therapist to help me deal with anxiety and all these blockages in my own brain. So I found a somatic therapist in my area. Our sessions have been phenomenal. Somatic means body, with the prefix soma meaning body related. So whereas cognitive techniques are like reframing my thoughts or noticing my negative thoughts, the somatic technique is more, we're going to sit with the uncomfortable feelings in my body. We're going to notice it. We're going to honor it and make space for it. And then turn our attention towards something else in our body that is not feeling as much tension. So that practice of sitting with the uncomfortable feelings, sitting with the distress, tolerating that distress has been really helpful for me. It helped me understand in my own body without having to like tell myself I'm okay. I felt in myself, okay, I'm here with the anxiety. It is really tense right now in my chest, in my stomach. And now, after like 1 or 2 minutes, it's passed. I would never sit with those feelings before because I was always afraid of like spending too much time being slow. I always had anxiety about time passing and not doing enough with all of my time. So back to this deck. The depictions of the emotions in this deck feel very body-based as well. The physicalities, like rage, for example, it almost feels like I'm emptying out every part of me and letting it really express itself outside of me, releasing it, purging it out. That's why this silhouette in the bottom is empty. Now, hope, feeling kind of smaller, feeling awe for the wider world around me. Passion, feeling very big, feeling very in my body, very present. Insecurity here, feeling unbalanced, feeling like on the tip of something, feeling not stable. This posture, the size of this person, the shapes of these people, these figures, it really is like my visual language. So like I said, this is not a deck that shines in like random card pulls, but instead intentional, purposeful card pulls. An icebreaker exercise that we've done in the tarot study sessions has been to pull a card or multiple cards, either that have been relevant to you this past week or that you just happened to draw. So it was a great opening exercise to go through my deck and think about, okay, what am I feeling? And I'll pull out maybe the 8 of Wands, because now it feels like this past week has been really rumble and tumble, lots of energy, lots of things happening all at once. So this is a similar exercise that I do with this. Recently, I've been putting these cards on this chair here, which is like basically an altar card. I don't really have an altar, but I'll have like this altar card. And I'll focus on this energy, this idea, this emotion, or I'll just let it simmer on the background, percolate in my mind. Recently, I put out the card Resilience, for example, because I've been going through a lot of different things this year, pushing through a lot of things, and it has been pretty discouraging sometimes to not feel instant results. But the resilience that I've been building inside myself reminds me that even though I may fall down, even though I may feel detached or broken at times, I'm still able to keep going. And I also have little supports here on the side too, with these 2 little other beings here. That's really sweet. And it doesn't have to be like positive emotions as well. And I say positive in quotes because positive or negative is a false dichotomy. I think emotions can just be helpful or unhelpful for our goals. And it's always up to us to act on what our emotions are telling us as well. So revenge was another card I was reflecting on this year. This feeling of wanting someone else to hurt, wanting someone else to feel bad. Or if I am this person, what are other people doing that is not an indication of me, but it is a projection of themselves? So understanding that the things that we want other people to feel, it's not always about them personally. It's about the experiences that I had growing up and how I didn't get the closure, the vindication, the satisfaction that I wanted. And now I'm projecting that onto other people, being on the receiving end too. You know, sometimes people lash out at us, not because they really hate us personally, but sometimes we just activated something in them that they didn't like, that they didn't have good experiences with from their past selves. So this separation here is really interesting to think about. And I like to do the similar exercise that I mentioned with the Spread Crafters decks, where maybe I'll go through and I'll pick like a few relevant ones. So maybe I want to do a spread about something today, and I've decided, you know, the 2 that are really speaking to me are loss and insecurity. And then I'll pull these cards out maybe as a central theme, and then I'll pull tarot cards around here and I'll journal about it or reflect on it, conversation with my deck around it. It's a really fun, freeform way to play. Next is Garden Tools, a deck that is not afraid to do the dirty work. We've got the Spread Crafters Oracle Change Edition. Truly the whole trifecta is here. Not afraid to do the dirty work is a great summary of this deck. It really goes deep. It goes hard. So the premise of these cards is they're all change-related cards. Doesn't have to be change in the world, the society, even though we all do need to be more aware of that and involved with that, myself included, but also change in ourselves, change in our personal relationships, change in how we see ourselves, change in the ways that we relate to society and society's expectations. And truly, to be accountable to myself, the cards that I want to pass over as if it feels, oh, it's too deep or not quite this time, sometimes that's usually the card that I need to pull out and really just put out on the table. I've pulled out privilege, amplify, and speak, which are really kind of the same thing here, and rage. So the privilege to acknowledge, Nine of Pentacles, definite privilege card there, having so much. Oh my God, all the pentacles have come out, 8, 9, and 10. What a cohesive spread here. And then the Emperor cinching it all in the middle here with amplify. I won't go too deep into this reading, but the 9 of 10 of Pentacles is a really interesting pair. Privilege, again, in acknowledging all the stuff that we have, even the efforts that it took to get us here. We have resources and opportunities that other people didn't have. And the 10 here is like only wanting what we have to funnel towards the people that we like or the people that are descended from us, as if other people in the community also don't matter. You know, people around in the community can also be our family. We can share the wealth among everyone. It doesn't have to be just your own blood family. Decks like this are so important for us grappling with the real truths and things we really need to pay attention to in ourselves and in how we present to the world. The only other decks that I can think of that give this kind of same, like, getting deep in their energy are maybe the Octospaman Oracle and the Outgrow Yourself Tarot Oracle. That one also has like some pretty direct call out kind of keywords and stuff. If you have other decks that have this same kind of like dirty work energy, I'd also love to know as well. Next is Soil, a deck that grounds you. Hands down, the Creatures Tarot for me. I backed this deck through Kickstarter, and there were also 22 extra major arcana. The idea is you can mix and match and choose which are your favorite majors to keep in the deck, but I just want to keep all of them because why not? So the Creatures Tarot by Sarah Kathleen, it's my most calming grounding deck because there are just no people in here. And there's not really animals, so it's like a whole different world that is just really serene and very calming for me. I pulled out the moon cards here. I've been going through a depressive spell this past month, a lot of changes in my life, transitions. I didn't have as much social support or was in contact with my friends as much as I needed and wanted to be. And I was joking to my friend, I just wish I could vacation on the moon. This is what it feels like to me. Just little me being on this moon and nothing around me to overwhelm me. So the sceneries in this deck, the creatures, them having not many features, them just being more like shadows or silhouettes, it's really quite calming to read with. The star card, for example, love the composition here, having this little figure in the bottom here, looking at the big old star. And little tentacles almost feel like it's surrendering in a way, like it's letting go of grappling with things and it's just holding its hands up, letting go, kind of surrendering here. The 10 of Cups, I remember doing a reading about my family because both of my siblings were moving away and I was going to miss them so much. And this card came up and it just made me tear up. It gave me the same feeling as that saying of like, when we're apart, just look up at the moon and know that I'll be looking at that same moon. It is so cheesy, but that's what I felt from this card as well. Even though we may be physically apart right now, this is a time of transition, as we're all growing in our own different directions, we all still have the memories and the cups that we filled together. And this cloud almost feels like a liminal space that we're in together as well. Oh, wait, I know what it makes me think of. Okay, so there's a myth in Chinese mythology. This cowherd and this one maiden. They are up in the sky and some things happen, don't remember the details, but they were banished. And the maiden's father, who was the king, was like, oh God, I feel terrible that I made you feel sad. I'm going to let you see your boo-boo once a year. So on the 7th day of the 7th month of every year, magpies fly up and make a bridge so that the cowherd and the maiden can go see each other. And they cry, and that's why it rains on the 7th day of the 7th month every year. This is what that makes me think of as well. We'll orbit together every so often, and we'll have a wonderful time as it lasts, just being here in our own space together. And last one for now, the 10 of Pentacles was another really powerful card. Yeah, there's so much greenery and so much pentacles here, but how lonely it is with no one to share it with. How lonely it is to have built up all of this and then still feel alone. This is probably one of my favorite depictions and distinctions between the 10 of Pentacles and the 10 of Cups. With the 10 of Cups, it's not about the material things, it's just a feeling of us all being together. Versus with the 10 of Pentacles, there is only one figure here and all this greenery here. Next is Early Bloomers, a deck that showers you in color after a long winter. For me, that's the Queer Tarot. This deck re-inspired me to read for other people after who knows how long. So I started reading for other people for pay earlier this year. I was thinking about getting a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck to read with. I wanted to find a deck that had some of the classic imagery still that I could still draw from. So I was inspired to look at the Queer Tarot. I bought it secondhand and I fell in love with it pretty much immediately. The colors in this deck are so vibrant, the outfits, the sceneries, it is so much fun. And what's really cool about this compared to other Rider-Waite-Smith clones is that they have added more to these cards to look at. The Knight of Cups here has a dark background, so it makes this front parts of the card stand out even more. There's all this color here coming out from this cup here. So yeah, I initially thought I was going to be bored with this deck because it was just a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but now reading with it, and at this stage of my life in my tarot reading, I appreciate this deck so much more. It definitely feels like color after a long winter. It revitalized my interest in engaging with tarot for other people. I had gotten a little bit in my head about, does tarot even work? Does tarot even help other people? But once I pulled this deck out and I saw how much people were really loving the colors, and I myself was really loving the colors, it made me feel like a baby bird again. What I love about this deck too is that it reminds me, and I hope it can show people, that being queer is not just about who you're attracted to, who you're in relationship with. Being queer is just in your being, in your soul. I want to shout out a couple of TarotTube creators who have talked more about queerness in tarot, mainly Laura of Aquamarine 18 and Avery Fawcett. I'll link some of their videos in the description as well. Queering can be for everybody. We all need queer liberation for all of us to be free. Letting go of these expectations that don't serve us, and also fighting for these expectations to be released from other people that it doesn't help either. Like, we should stop expecting men to be super masculine, and we should stop expecting women to be only logical, as if emotions and logic cannot overlap or intersect or coexist. That is all also part of queering. Now, in contrast is Late Bloomers, a deck whose lessons take a while to unfurl. I've got here the Mum Tarot, which is a deck that my friend Katie got me from Vietnam. This is based all around Vietnamese foods, Vietnamese cuisines. And what is especially fascinating is not only seeing how rich and varied Vietnamese cuisine is, but also the guidebook that explains how these cuisines came to be. And the book is bilingual Vietnamese and English, so it's really cool to read the Vietnamese part and try to see what I can understand, and then also just read the English part with no brain needed. And the story of this deck is that this bunny Mum is journeying through Vietnam and sampling all these Vietnamese cuisines. So that's the story. That's why it's called the Mum Tarot. Mum is the bunny here. I've used it to connect with my ancestors, mainly to just pull a card and ask for a simple message. But I don't know, ancestor work is just not something that I am feeling that called to or grounded in or interested in. From a secular standpoint, since I don't have much spiritual connection, I think all these things about ancestors are just things that I'm projecting onto them. And it's not really easy for me to really learn about my ancestors in a tangible way. So ancestor work, it's nice in theory, but when I try to put into practice, I just don't feel that solid with it. But that is okay. I can still learn from the lessons and the history lessons in this book here, explaining all these different parts of Vietnamese culture. And at the end of the day, it's still just making connections. So learning about what these foods are and connecting them to my situation, thinking about what applies, what's different, what's the same. Oh my God, I just realized, dude, this and the Magic Pantry Tarot. Duh. Where did I put it? It's the same idea, dude. Food and tarot. It's so cool that people can come up with these different things that can correlate with tarot cards, that they're knowledgeable enough about both, that they can, put stuff together. This is really, really cool. Did I explain why it takes a while to unfurl? The way the question itself is worded, it's not quite how I read either. Even though I write down my readings, I just can never be bothered to revisit them afterward. And I don't really read predictively that much, so I don't notice when things come to fruition or if the tarot cards ever predicted anything. I guess just this deck being slower and being more reflective is why I tie it in with the word of unfurl. Almost done now. Next is Baby Birds, a bird that is a deck that is chirping at you, ready to see the world. I've got here Tarot for the Great Outdoors, but wait, there's more. I bought myself a copy, and I also bought my friend a copy, but I've already wrapped it up, and I'm not gonna grab it right now. So imagine there's 3 copies of this deck right here. So the premise of this deck is that it's all themed around going outdoors, going camping, going hiking, doing these outdoor and active activities. I was never much of an outdoor or an active person. But last year, I started doing exercise classes more frequently for the sake of my mental health. So I've been doing HIIT, which is high interval intensity training, and also kickboxing weekly for cardio reasons. I understand now the reason why it's important to get our bodies moving. I'm always working my mind, and I need to give my body a reason to exercise as well, so that my mind and my heart can actually take a break. And it's quite therapeutic to go to exercise class and to like let the thoughts and the feelings just flow through, not holding on to them, because my focus right now is on the exercising. I really love how this deck is more numerological rather than only Rider-Waite-Smith based. It's always bothered me when decks depict the Three of Swords and the Ten of Swords and other cards, especially in the Sword suit, as only negative or scary cards. I'm just trying to do a reading about what to focus on. I really don't want to see things being stabbed all the time. So these two cards really stood out to me already. Normally, the Three of Swords is three swords usually stabbed in a heart. And at least the way the Panda Tarot has it stabbing into a book, which tends to be more how I read it. It's almost like we're throwing away the books or realizing that there's more to learn and to experience that I can't just experience from reading a book. Now, the Three of Blades, this has a similar feeling of we're trying something new, trying this new thing. Maybe you end up falling down, but you're still learning. So I like that expansive meaning on this Three of Blades, Three of Swords. And then Ten of Blades, I love this one so much. The guidebook here explains that when people sign up for a marathon, so many people wonder, why did I do this in the first place? But when you finish that marathon, even if you vomited, even if you had the horrible time, even if you regret it, the fact is you still finished it. However well or badly the marathon went, you can say you finished it and move on. So compared to this common depiction of 10 swords being stabbed, this really clearly depicts the idea of finishing something, finishing a long chapter or any sort of chapter, even if it was really hard. And these are the kinds of expansive interpretations that I really want to see when I'm looking at any new tarot decks. And that is the Tarot for the Great Outdoors, ready to see the world, or really inspiring me to go see the world, to go experience things some more. And lastly, here is Pollinators, a deck that reminds you of the world's interconnectedness. What a surprise, the Panda is already out, so the Panda it shall be. This Way of the Panda mini tarot was my first ever tarot deck back in August 2020, and it is still one of my most absolute treasured decks. It feels really broken in by all the times that I've shuffled it in the past, like almost 5 years that I've had it now. I guess now it's August, so it'll be 5 whole years. Wow, my 5-year tarot anniversary. When I bought this deck, I searched for the creator on YouTube, and I found Kimberly San's channel where she explains a lot of other things about tarot. So she had ideas for creative tarot journaling. She explained all of the different suits of the tarot as if they were different clans. So she explained like the water clan, the air clan. She explained like the Fool's Journey in story format. So she had a very creative approach and depiction of the tarot. And of course, these illustrations by Celia Bell, they're just so beautiful. They really inspired me to accept myself and to love myself and also to push myself a little bit farther, just like the pandas in this deck also push themselves. But I'm straying away from the point. So the interconnectedness part of the Way of the Panda Tarot for me is because I initially watched Kimberly San on YouTube, I then found other creators like Lisa Pepez and Katie Flowers, and I've introduced these decks, mainly the Way of the Panda Tarot, to other friends as well. It reminds me of the tarot readings I did with other people when I was first getting this deck, other friends that I've inspired to buy this deck for themselves, the way that I connected with other people through showing this really cute deck. You know, like when you show someone a cool thing, you're like instantly more likely to be friends, right? It's like when someone has a cool dog, you like have an excuse to talk to each other. So this Way of the Panda was my excuse or reason or motivation to talk to people and to connect with them better. And these pandas also having their range of emotions reminds me of our human spectrum of emotions. And somehow it also reminds me of the fact that tarot decks get shipped from all over the world. So Kim being in Canada, but this deck making its way over to me, that is really cool too. So that's the tag. From Seed to Soul Decks, prompts by Kate of Moonflower Moments. Even if these kinds of deck videos aren't for everybody, which I totally understand, I love when people come up with different prompts like this. It inspires me to think about decks in a different way and different kinds of readings I might do too. So that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.